It's the little things that make this time of year special. For instance, just yesterday, in fact, as we stopped to gas up, grab a bite, and stretch our legs, we saw a McDonald's. But not a McDonald's with a play place, that would be too easy. This was a McDonald's that was trying to be hip and trendy and was refurbished when McDonald's was trying to move into the coffee market. And so there's just tables everywhere. But that's okay, we can figure it out. We decided to get our food to go, and I looked at Google, and Google said that there was a park like 3 miles away. Perfect. Looked at the pictures, vast area to run and burn off any energy. Awesome. But as we're there on this beautiful afternoon, bright and sunny, light breeze, a little chilly but okay, a cop car comes. Becca and I had seen a lot of cops everywhere, and so we're thinking at this point, man, this is quite a seedy little town here. But we see this cop just rolling up very slowly, but with lights and sounds. So we look up to see what's going on now, and right behind him, we see a bunch of people on horseback. I don't know if this is a posse coming to round somebody up and they're just alerting the person. I don't know what's going on, but there are a bunch of people on horseback. As they start riding in, we can see them a little more, and we see that these are not just any people on horseback. This is Santa and his wife and their elves riding in on horseback. And they stop at the playground, and they are there to fill everyone with Christmas cheer by giving candy and pausing for pictures on horseback with Santa, and giving out bags of cash. Well, coins anyway, they're for the kids. When I saw the huge smiles on my girl's face as they got in line, I thanked the people for doing this. I'm like, this is a really cool thing. Thank you so much. And they in turn thanked me for showing up. It turns out that this was a scheduled event for them, something they had been planning for a long time. There was even flyers when we went back to McDonald's to go to the restroom that I saw that I didn't see before. But for us, this was just the coolest random thing that could have happened. That could have been a very trying time for us as we're driving the last little bit from Disney World. So the last 6 hours during the daytime could have been really bad. But all of a sudden, our entire trip was turned around and redeemed, and you know, it was a small thing, but really cool, because right when we had pulled in to get gas and set down my books, and I said, all right, I'm gonna stop and eat and do something, and as I think for an opening for a sermon. There it is. In fact, this small act actually links up with our readings rather nicely today, because all the things that we encounter today are rather small. Bethlehem, David, John the Baptist. David's so small you don't even notice him in this, but he's there. In our Old Testament lesson, we hear Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are little to be among the clans of Judah. From you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose origin is from old, from ancient days. Bethlehem was a small city, famous because it was the birthplace of David the king. But it was still kind of a nothing town. And by the time Micah is making his prophecy, David has been dead for roughly 300 years. Yet here's God telling the people through Micah that a ruler will be born from here who is from old. A little history we need to know is that rulers were anointed. So he is saying that the anointed one, the Messiah, the Christ, who will come from Bethlehem, one who is from old. one who will come in the future but is old. We know this to be an indicator of divine nature. And it's also important that this anointed ruler will come from Bethlehem. Again, because it is the birthplace of David the king. In 2 Samuel 7, God made a covenant with David in which God promised, "I will raise up your offspring after you, who will come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom." David was a small thing too, just a little guy. When Samuel the prophet was told by God to go to the house of Jesse to anoint the king, Jesse tramped out all his children, except David. He's the youngest. He's the one out tending the sheep. But so being that he could not be the king, I have much bigger strapping lads who will be the king. Yet Samuel would not leave until he saw all of Jesse's sons. God knew that it was David who would be king, this little shepherd with the heart of a lion. And it was David for whom God prepared the way. David who would unite Israel and establish his kingdom at Jerusalem. Now, when Mary went to see her cousin Elizabeth, we see the stirring of the baby, John the Baptist, in Elizabeth. And doing a little research, because it's been a while since my wife has been pregnant, I had to check and see when is the first moment a woman can feel the stirring of her child inside. And the internet tells me about 4 to 6 months. And John is about 6 months older than Jesus. So it could be that the first moment Elizabeth feels her child move ever was the exact moment when Mary walked into the room. It's pretty cool just at that. But this slight movement became for Elizabeth the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of God's promise to David of an offspring who would be that anointed king of Israel. Mary had the proper bloodline after all, and John, being the miracle baby that he was, had everyone on high alert in her mind, I guess. However, this rabbit hole goes even deeper. David was not only a king, he was also a priest. He was, we see this when he brought the Ark of the Covenant from Judah to Jerusalem. He donned the ephod, a sleeveless garment worn by Jewish priests, and danced before the Lord with all his might. The Ark of the Covenant was after all, the resting place of God. So this is David worshiping God as the Ark of the Covenant moved. Now, John's stirring has always been accounted for as an acknowledgement of Jesus' presence. Yes, that is true. But there's more to it in this slight little movement of John. Because John is in a priestly family, Zechariah being his father is the priest. There is a link to David's priesthood here. So we have the elements present, Mary going to the hill country of Judah, the place where David went to go retrieve the Ark of the Covenant to bring it to Jerusalem. And we have a priest leaping and dancing, and we have the acknowledgement of a prophecy. John is not only acknowledging the presence of Jesus, but he is taking up the role of David, the priest, and dancing in the presence of the Ark of the Covenant, Mary, who is bearing in her womb the resting place of God, the one who is from of old, who is in the lineage of David. So this small stirring of John is the acknowledgement of the fulfillment of the promise to David of Jesus the Christ. It's a small thing with very great implications. And it just, all these small things linking together just reminds me and amazes me just of all the just small things that happen this time of year, when things are starting to get all sorts of crazy with Christmas being in 2 days, all the things that need to go around in times when we can easily forget about Jesus and forget about even the people being actual people, they're just things getting in the way of us doing our duties for Christmas and all. But it's these small things that people do, taking time out of their day to ride up on horseback and give my kids candy, and thanking me for being there, in fact. Or it's just small little things that acknowledge the coming of Christ that we do in our lives throughout the day, that we can just do to acknowledge Jesus in the person that we see before us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.